Now we are gonna see what are the candidates for automation. By saying candidates, I mean the test cases which are developed. Suppose there are hundreds of test cases developed manually, but all these 100 test cases may not be the good candidates for automation testing. We'll be selecting, say for example, 20 test cases for automation, and these cases have to be good candidates for automation. For this, we need to know what are actually the good candidates and the bad candidates for automation. So the good candidates, these are pretty obvious. For example, the tests which need to be run on every build. Now suppose, as I said earlier, there are multiple builds coming up, so the same functionality has to be run again and again, which is a part of regression testing. And if you need to run the same test case again and again, so it's a good candidate for testing, for automation testing. Second, I would say is data-driven test. I said for logging in to ICICI website, we have 10 different login IDs. So we are performing 10 different, we are actually inputting 10 different users to a same functionality. So if this functionality is automated, we can easily take those inputs and we can perform the execution in less number of time. Maybe logging in 10 persons manually will take a longer amount of time than automation. The third one is tests having complexities in execution. There are tests like, for example, there are certain tests which have difficult mathematical calculations. I would take example from one of the projects which I had worked in my company. It was an utility project wherein we had to create a new customer. For creating the new customer, we had to add this address, and since it is utility project, we had to add his electricity account, gas account, and a lot of things we need to do. And then we have to actually enroll the customer for the account, and the customer account is generated. So there was a lot of complexity. Then manually executing this test took me approximately 30 minutes for the important functionality. So this test could be a really good candidate for automation, since QTP can perform the same task at comparatively less number of times, since it doesn't have to remember. Like, I had to remember a lot of things before enrolling that customer, like adding the accounts, adding the address. So this is something we don't have to do with automation, since once we have created the script for that functionality, we have to just on the click of run, it will execute the functionality. Now we are gonna see what are bad candidates. The first is a test that will be executed once or few times. Like suppose there, as I said earlier, there are no builds coming up. There's only one single build. Then that test case will be executed only once. Then there's no use of automation if it is not as if it doesn't have to be executed again and again. Second is tests that take longer time in automation. There are certain tests like which might take longer time for automation as compared to manual testing. Manually it can be done really fast. So then there won't be any use of automation testing if it doesn't save time, unless that test has been used in will be used in more number of cycles, like hundreds of cycles. Then it might save time in longer run, but currently it is not saving my time. It is taking 30 minutes, wherein manually I can do it for in just 5 minutes. Third is look and feel cases. The tests which are related only to look and feel, like colors, fonts, styles, etc., are bad candidates for automation. The next is tests that need manual intervention. Now it is pretty obvious that tests which need manual intervention are actually not automated tests. That's why we call it automation testing, right? So what is the use of the test, automated test, if it needs manual intervention? So these tests could be executed better if it is done manually rather than automating them. Automation life cycle. As I discussed earlier, automation has a different life cycle of its own, development life cycle, testing life cycle, since automation has emerged as an important phase in testing. Now, as you can see on the screen, there are different phases in automation life cycle. I'll be giving a brief introduction about each and every phase. I won't go deeper into this, but yeah, you need to know about these concepts so that you realize how end-to-end automation of the test cases actually work.